Good morning. It has been a while since I've made my last video, and the reason for that is if you look back 2 videos previously, I got burnt out, and then I tried to make a video really quickly after that video to sort of get the juices flowing, so to speak, and that did the complete opposite. It just burnt me out further, and then I didn't want to make any videos for a while. So the benefit of being a hobbyist in this kind of YouTube video space was I just took a big break, and I haven't made anything for the past 6 to 7 months, I think. That being said, it's now Boxing Day here, so the 26th of December in Australia, and it's come to the end of the year, and that's the one time I do get to make a video that I really do like, which is my favourite things of the year. As someone with a lot of interests and hobbies, and I just like to share things basically, so I'm going to go through a list of some of my favourite things for this last 12 months, in no particular order, but I will try and break them down into some sort of simpler categories so it's a bit easier to follow. And the first category, what have I got written here? The first category is going to be things that I have created and made this year. So anything from miniatures to, say, a cosplay to whatever, stuff I created. First sort of bigger project that I completed this year was my custom Boba Fett figure. It's based off of this original 1977 Boba Fett action figure. So I purchased a 3D scan of this figure from a creator known as Desert Octopus on Cults 3D, where it was like, you know, $3 to $5 I think it was, and he's someone who's gone through and either scanned or recreated the original vintage Kenner line, so you can download them and print them off and paint them yourself. And so with that, as a huge Star Wars and Boba Fett fan, I really wanted to try and create my own figure that was unique and I could tell a fun story with it and make it my own. So I decided to recreate the scene from the book of Boba Fett in the very first episode where he's coming out of the sand with his hand from the Sarlacc pit, and that was the figure that I made. Part of that project was getting to do a lot of different things: 3D printing skills, cleaning up the model, making sure the joints still work on the actual figure, but also working on my graphic design skills. So getting to fully redesign the packaging how I would like to have it as a collection piece. Once that was sort of the rough outline that I had established that I wanted to do, that came down to the fun task of deciding, okay, let's start making it. Now, that was a bit more involved than I originally thought, especially with the graphic design stuff. I just thought I'll just make packaging, but then I wanted a custom logo. I wanted to create this fake whole little business that I had around it, so I then dived into that and came up with the name Space Wizard Customs. I only made one in this last 12 months because it was a really long process, but now that I've learned a lot of the skills necessary, I would like to make a lot more in this coming year, and basically have my own little shop of custom one-off figures. That would be really, really cool. I should also apologise for how I'm talking. I'm feeling a bit under the weather, but we're going to try and make this video anyway because I would like to get it done before the end of the year. So, the second project that I created and made this year was the Duel of Fates Diarama. Now that was another really intense and fun project for me to sort of learn a bunch of new skills on and really push myself as far as a modeler, I guess you could say. The original concept was, I've always loved that scene in the Phantom Menace where it's Obi versus Maul and Qui-Gon all sort of fighting together, and I wanted to try and capture that in a diorama somehow, but not just put it on a circular base like you normally would see for a lot of these sort of miniature dioramas, and I wanted to incorporate the plinth into the sort of foundational part of the base somehow. So I came up with this sort of semicircle idea, because if you look back into the film, they're fighting in this sort of reactor chamber sort of power station for the Naboo castle there on Theed, and there's like massive holes that they can just fall down the whole way into the unknown. I really wanted to try and capture that somehow. Quite challenging to figure out a design that I liked, one that could still work as a plinth for the models to be displayed on as well and not look a bit weird. But in the end, I managed to find a design from just sketching and sort of measuring out some stuff on some pen and paper, and then I got to jump into 3D software. The software I chose was called Shaper 3D, which is on the iPad, and I used that to design this base. So that was really fun because I've not done a lot of hard surface modeling like that before, and getting to sort of play in that software was actually a lot of fun. I made a bunch of plinths as well, and getting to then try and print that on a resin printer was another fun element, because obviously I didn't scale the model properly to begin with, so when I first put it into the software it was like tiny, and then that had its whole host of issues. There was trying to scale it up to get it to be the correct size for the figures in the software. The biggest challenge with that piece was probably the 3D print failed originally after a couple of times, and on the very last time, when it was my last sort of lot of resin before I'd have to make an order to get more, and I was very impatient, I couldn't be bothered waiting, I ran out of resin at the very end of the print, so the whole top of the base was sort of crumpled and missing. I might see if I can find some photos that I have of here, but it was shattering basically. And from that moment on, I had a bit of a break on it because it was just I was a bit defeated, to be honest, and I didn't want to touch it for a little while, so I just continued painting Obi and Qui-Gon and Darth Maul and trying to make those really, really nice. And then what ended up happening was I just got a bit of energy one day, and I thought, you know what, we could fix this. Rather than print the whole thing again, we could use like some styrene and essentially measure out the top surface for it and connect it all and put it back. And that's exactly what I did. And I managed to fix it with Milliput, green stuff, and some styrene, and then I got straight into painting it all up. There was a lot more detail and stuff at that point I wanted to add and try and create, and I skimped out on a lot of it because the love was gone at that point, and I just would like to have gotten it finished. But I did finish it, and it is one of my favourite things this year because of all the learning from that experience, as well as having a really cool one-off Duel of Fates diorama. For anyone interested, the miniatures are from Skullforge Studios. That's the guy I go to get all of my Star Wars miniatures. I subscribe to his Patreon, so you should check out his Patreon or just his Gumroad store if you're interested in custom Star Wars minis. They're incredible, the best out there. The third thing that I created this year that I'm really proud of and still really love is my Obi-Wan single miniature diorama. This is another 3D printed mini from Skullforge Studios. And this miniature in particular, I really wanted to create him walking through Tatooine, and it's kind of isolated and, you know, just vast for the landscape. How I went about that was trying to get the correct sand grain, which was really, really tough because if you've ever used sand with miniatures before, the scale is off, and if you would think about it in relation to yourself, they would be like these giant boulders this big that they are walking around on, and it's really hard to get it to look natural and like actual in-scale sand. So that took a lot of testing with various different sand grains that I could find. I got one from Geek Gaming Scenics, I think the company name is. I can't remember, I don't have the packaging, sorry. But it was like a 0 point something 5 grain sand, and then what I ended up doing was combining it with Mod Podge to kind of not make it so obvious that it was like sand. It sounds weird, but the Mod Podge kind of filled in a lot of the gaps, so it made it more of like this smoother surface with tiny little bumps, which worked a lot better to look like sand dunes in the end. So that's what I did, use that technique, and I just applied a lot of those kind of pastes over the base to sort of get this sort of sand texture that I was after. But I was lucky enough to take this piece, enter it in ARC, the ARC Open here in Melbourne, and I managed to get a gold in the single miniature category with that against some really tough competition, two really good friends, Liam and Dave. So I was really stoked and shocked, to be honest, to get a gold medal in that competition for that piece. So it's one of my favourite projects that I've made this year, one of my favourite characters, but also just a lovely little display piece that won an award, so that's always nice. Okay, so the next category for this year is more of a hobbyist gaming related one. I took a very big step back from miniature painting in this last sort of, I'd say from June onwards, and that was just because I was feeling a bit burnt out, but also it was something that I solely focused on for 5 years, from like 2020, really when the pandemic struck, all the way through until this year. Miniature painting was like my sole hobby focus, and I put a lot of other stuff to the side. I just didn't participate in it anymore. But this year, a card game came out, a trading card game known as Star Wars Unlimited, and of course the Star was in the title, so it sucked me straight in. But that game really changed a lot of things for me, as far as like I became way more social. I started going to local game stores and playing these events weekly. I then created another little gaming group of friends that we hang out and play this game very regularly, and then I started to get the bug for competing. So then, all the tournaments started to become a thing for me, and I started participating in a lot of them. So the trading card game in general, like that hobby, Star Wars has taken the top perch, and I love it. The game's incredible, the mechanics are super fun and refreshing, and it's all of my favorite sort of characters. Fantasy Flight have done a really good job, I think, with the artwork, with the card design, and with just making a fun, very fresh Star Wars game, which is really, really good. So I've been obsessed with that over the last 12 months. The other trading card game, because it was inevitable, once you dip your toe into one, you got to have the way I like to think of it, as a side game, one that you don't take so seriously. And for me, that has been the One Piece trading card game. My wife Storm and I started rewatching One Piece and thought, let's try and finish it, because we never have, because there's a million episodes. So we started One Piece again, and at that point she was already collecting some of the cards just for fun, because she likes the characters and likes opening booster packs like we all do. But at that point we both started watching the show and getting more invested into it, and then I met a few friends through Star Wars Unlimited who also play One Piece pretty competitively, and I learnt the game from them, and then I got a bit of a bug for it, and then I went deep dive and started learning the game, watching tutorials, playing it, and in the last 3 weeks I've now started going to another game store where I can play locally as well and get involved in the community that way. And the card game is also incredible. The cards look beautiful, and it has sucked up so much of my time over these last 6 months between these two card games. But it's been a lot of fun, and it's been super refreshing and really, really good, I found, for my mental health and also my sort of creative outlets. I started putting all of my competitive nature and drive into trading card games, into something that I think actually rewards that competitiveness more than miniature painting competitions. And it's been such a huge benefit for me personally to do that. It's made my miniature painting, which originally was my de-stress sort of release for being creative, come back to that stage where I'm not chasing, medals or competitions anymore. So for me, I think it's perfect. It fits in line with what I actually want to keep painting as this sort of fun, relaxing hobby that I can still enter in competitions, but I'm not so invested in it that it ruins it for me. Whereas all of my competing now goes straight into trading card games, which I love, and it's been a lot of fun. Okay, so the other thing with trading card games is you need some accessories to go with those trading card games. Now, the Star Wars Unlimited one is a special one because it requires a lot of little tokens to mark damage or to indicate some sort of effect within the game. And as a collector of, I would just say, a lot of crap, I really like getting custom little tokens and all of that sort of stuff, but also getting to make things. It makes it a lot of fun for you to kind of envision and design or create your own things. So one of my favorite little accessories that I made this year was a initiative token. In Star Wars, there's a token that symbolizes who has the turn priority and going first that someone can grab. And normally you can get these special little Star Wars Unlimited ones that they create, but that's not cool. It's much better if you make your own. So I have a little melted Darth Vader head that I've been using as my sort of initiative token. And it's always fun too when I get to put that out on the table and it's against someone who doesn't know me or I've never met, and they instantly like, that's so cool, where can I buy one? So on and so forth. So it's been really fun getting to express not just my love for the trading card games, but my love for making things throughout the hobby as well. One of the other things is the tokens that come with the game. I love tokens for miniature gaming, so getting these custom these ones from GameGenic, which is their sort of main supplier for the Star Wars stuff. They're in Aurebesh, which is the Star Wars language. They're just really cool. I like having those on the table as well, and lots of them. And then same with this other company. I can't remember their name, unfortunately, but they are an Etsy seller, and they have these nice sort of acrylic tokens that are just very clear with the damage to marker on them, so that they're also really, really good. The other favorite thing to do with sort of trading cards and the accessories has been the social life aspect of it. Miniature painting can be a very isolated sort of hobby, and especially for me, I have a core group of friends who I would paint with, but also and stream as well, and then we also have a Discord. But I found from that kind of perspective as well, it's very hard to focus and push yourself to paint the best thing you've ever painted when you're talking with other people or interacting with other people. So for me, a lot of my hardcore painting time would be alone with nothing but music, because I get too distracted and I can't really put the effort or energy into what I'm doing. I'm very much a one task at a time kind of person. I don't believe in this multitasking myth. So for me, I had to spend a lot of energy and effort being alone, pushing myself to try and create better and better pieces, and that can be challenging over time. The other thing too is with the trading cards, I managed to get a lot of, you can talk about it, you can joke and have fun the whole time, and it forced someone like me who's normally pretty introverted and antisocial to go out and be way more social than I have been in a long time, and it's been fantastic. I've met a really great group of guys who I play with weekly, and then even traveling around Melbourne to all these events, getting to meet like other friends and people who are players. It's just been a lot of fun, and I've made some really good friends within the trading card game in this last 12 months who I speak to daily now, talking about lists and so on and so forth. So it's been a blast. I know there is like painting groups that, especially here in Melbourne, we have the guilds and all that kind of stuff, which is, I guess, this social aspect of that too, but I'm a bit of a weirdo and I like to paint by myself. So they never really jived or worked too well for me personally. But I'm glad that they do for a lot of other people and fill that need, because the social side, I think, is really important for a hobby like this. Okay, one more thing I forgot to talk about for trading card accessories. When you have a lot of trading cards, you need binders. You need things to store them in. Some people are super organized and they put all of their cards in the right color category and everything. That's not me. I put all of mine in a box, and they stay in a box in a big line, and I now have many boxes. But the nice thing to have for displaying all of your special ones or rare ones is something like a good folder. So my good friend Bucks, he got me onto this brand originally, which is Palms Gaming, or Palms Off Gaming I should say. It's a Melbourne, Australian company too, so that makes it even better. But in all honesty, they're the best folders I've used in years and years. Back when I played with Magic, I always used Ultra Pro, and I stuck with that for a long time. But this Palms company, they've stepped up and changed that completely. They are the #1 folder company, in my opinion here. So I like to get their folders. They also have this massive limited edition one, which holds a crap load of cards, and I use that for all of my Star Wars stuff to hold multiple of them. So that's been another fantastic addition to my collecting of trading card games this year. Alright, one last thing, and this is a very more recent favourite thing, but it's skyrocketed to the top of the list within, I'd say, a month. So Black Friday comes around every year. This year I took the plunge and I purchased a brand new Filament 3D printer. Now, I have a lot of resin printers, and Storm had a very old filament printer, but we never really used it because it was very outdated and it was really painful to use. The bed leveling took forever, the print failures were very frequent and often, and it was just a nightmare. It wasn't a fun experience in any way, and it made us kind of avoid it at all costs. Jump forward to November this year. I've been watching a lot of creators and prop makers on YouTube, and a lot of them I noticed were using this Bamboo Labs printer, specifically the A1. So I checked out their website. Fortunately for me, they had a big Black Friday sale, and I made the plunge and I purchased one of these filament printers. And as someone who's used a lot of them over the years, this is by far the best experience I've ever had with 3D printing. It is so close to being plug and play literally out of the box. It's incredible. Most of the stuff that you can make on this printer comes out flawless. I haven't had a single issue yet, and I've printed a lot of stuff. This new purchase too has just kind of opened the can of worms, right, of what I can now create and what I can make going forward into like my sort of hobbies and interests. For a long time, I'm sure I've mentioned it, I've really wanted to get into cosplay. I really wanted a Mandalorian suit of armor. I've never been able to do that on the resin printers that I have at the size that their build plate volume is. But now with this Bamboo Labs printer, I can print pretty much anything. For an example, Mandalorian cosplay videos. For the longest time, I've wanted to be a Mandalorian since I was a kid. I'm now finally chasing that dream and doing it. So here is the first gauntlet that I have 3D printed off of this bamboo thing. So it's incredible how clean this came out. I just cut the gauntlet in half to print the two separate pieces in the app, and it worked flawlessly. It's so smooth for ley lines, it's crazy. It's literally the closest thing to magic I think I've experienced with how clean this has come out and how easy the cleanup process is going to be when I start to sand this and refine it and get all the painting and stuff like that. The other addition is it's allowed me to dive into another aspect of this sort of making and painting hobby that I've really wanted to for a long time, which is props. I've always wanted to be involved in prop making. How I got into miniature painting first was through Adam Savage's Tested and Props, and I was painting up Nerf guns, which then I transitioned into model kits like Gundams and Star Wars ships and stuff, which then transitioned into D&D and miniatures. But now I'm going full circle with props again. Now this is Han Solo in Carbonite's head. I've always wanted life-size Han Solo in Carbonite, but you just can't buy them, or if you can, you need to be super rich. Now I can just make one. So I 3D printed off his head. It came out immaculate. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with it just yet, but I will do something. The Bamboo A1 3D printer has been an incredible new addition to my creative hobby life, and I highly recommend anyone who's interested in 3D printing to pick one of these up, just because of the ease of use, the small learning curve that you would need to understand the software to sort of jump in and essentially plug and play. Okay, so my last favourite thing for the year, which isn't actually a thing, it was an occasion and an event. I got married to my lovely and beautiful now wife, Storm. We've been together for 12 years now, and we finally decided to tie the knot this year and get married, and it was the best day of my life. We had a very small little ceremony, just me and her and a couple of witnesses. Then we went straight away off to go enjoy our sort of little weekend trip getaway down by the beach, and it was incredible. The joy I've got to be able to call my best friend, who was my girlfriend at the time and fiance, now my wife, is just incredible, and it's been such a good year for me in that sense, getting to, marry someone who you love dearly and spend a lot more time with them. And that's another thing that I've done this year, is instead of spending so much time on hobbies, we've just decided to spend more time with each other and engaging that way. And it's been incredible. I can't recommend just spending time with the people you love and actually doing things together. It's been a real blast, and I'm very, very grateful and lucky that I managed to marry my best friend and spend the rest of my life with her. That is it for me, friends, for 2024. Thank you so much for all of your support in 2024, from following me on Instagram to subscribing to this YouTube channel to just reaching out, messaging me and talking about things that we all love and can share. I really, really appreciate it all. Thank you again, everyone, and all the best in 2025. And I will see you all in the new year, either at a painting event if you're an Australian local, or online in some form, whether it be streaming or YouTube videos or whatever that is. And one last thing, I come from the music video generation, so I'm going to make a little music video at the end here of just a lot of clips from various things I filmed throughout the year with some music over it. So enjoy. Thank you so much for following and subscribing and checking out my lack of videos this year, but I appreciate each and every one of you, and I wish you a very safe, happy new year. I will see you in 2025. Thanks so much for following along, everyone. Peace.
What have you fucking done? 2020. Oh my dick!
The smoke, when dark closed, it makes me choke. Hide behind your small talk jokes, but I can see you're bent and broke, and we have no memories. And now they're singing endlessly about when you went I'd still die for you, but not for me. Best believe I've tried everything. Let me in, I'm really scared. I'm asking you as your best friend. I can fix this thing you did, 'cause I can't see who I avoided. Let me in, I'm really scared. I'm asking you as your best friend. It's worse than you think it is. I can't see who I avoided. I'd still die for you, but not for me. Best believe I've tried everything. Do it for yourself, if not for me. Can't you see it's taking everything?
How do you feel?
No.